Today, let's learn how to knit the garter stitch, the most basic stitch in knitting. The garter stitch, also known as the knit stitch, is the foundation to all of knitting. And when you knit in the garter stitch, it creates this fabric that you see here, which is a bumpy kind of knit, which makes a stretchy fabric, and that's called the garter stitch. If you don't already know how to cast on stitches to begin knitting, you can go to my playlist to look for the tutorial on how to cast on stitches, and I'll do a recap here. I'll start with measuring out 3 times the width of my project with the yarn, and I over measure because I like to have a lot of yarn tail to work with. Create a slip stitch for the first stitch, drape the tail end yarn over the thumb, the working yarn over the index finger, and then grab the 2 strands with the remainder fingers on your left hand to create that triangle. And then at the center between the thumb and the index finger, take your right hand and you're going to twist that yarn clockwise to make a loop around your thumb and finger, and then grab the yarn that's connected to your thumb and pull that through the loop. And there is your slip stitch. Place that slip stitch onto your knitting needle and then tighten the stitch by pulling the yarn, and just make sure it doesn't fall off the needle. And we'll start the long tail cast on. Bring the needle under the yarn on your thumb and over the yarn on your index finger, back through the yarn loop on your thumb, release the yarn and pull and repeat. Here we go. We've got the start, under, over, through, release. And continue to do this until you have a number of stitches you're comfortable with. I'm going to do 18 stitches to make a swatch, and I'll talk about swatches more in later videos, but for right now all you need to know is it's a sample of the yarn you're knitting with the size of the needle you're using. A good habit to start as a beginner knitter is to count your stitches after you're finished casting on to make sure it's the correct number that's called for in a project. The next thing you do is cut the excess yarn tail. Just leave about 4 to 6 inches of yarn tail remaining, and at the end of the project you will weave that in. The next habit you should start is to determine which side of the fabric is the front side and which side of the fabric is the wrong side. The front side of the fabric is also called the right side of the fabric, and that's going to be the pretty side of the fabric. So for garter stitch, it doesn't really matter because on garter stitch, the stitch is the same on either side, but the cast on is different. So you have to choose which side of the cast on you prefer. I'm choosing this side as my front side facing fabric, my right side, my pretty side. And so I'm going to place a marker to the right to remind me that this is the right side facing fabric. So we've got the marker on the right for right side facing. And that's a good rule of thumb to use too. Right marker, right side, which remember is the pretty side. Okay, we are ready to learn how to knit. Let's hold the needle with the stitches in your left hand and make sure the tip of the knitting needle is pointing towards your right hand or right fingers, and the yarn is closest to the tip of the needle. Move the stitches up towards the tip of the needle about an inch away from the edge. Don't let them fall off, but that loop closest to the tip is the first stitch we're going to be working on. So take your knitting needle in your right hand and you're going to insert that into the first stitch on the left needle. That's the stitch closest to the tip. and you're going to insert the needle from front to back, and it will form an X with the right needle laying beneath the left needle, like so. So you went from front to back, there's the X, and now you're going to take the yarn, get the yarn tail out of the way and hold that in your left hand. Take the working yarn in your right hand and wrap that counterclockwise around that right needle and in between the two needles to create a strand that's resting in between the two needles there. Do you see that strand? Okay, so you're going to take that right needle and you're going to pull that strand from the back to the front of the work. So you're pulling that strand onto the right needle to create a loop on that right needle. And then the right needle will be resting on top of the left needle, which creates an X again. And that loop that's on the right needle is now the new stitch. And we take off the old stitch that's off on the left needle by just slipping it off the left needle, like so. And now you have created your first knit stitch. So now you've created your first stitch on your right needle, and if you find your yarn is in front of the work, you're going to want to take it to the back of the work. And that's because for the knit stitch, the garter stitch, your yarn is always worked from the back of the work. So now we are ready to do our next stitch. So insert your right needle into the first stitch on the left needle from front to back. And now the right needle is resting beneath the left needle, forming that X. Take your working yarn and you're going to wrap the working yarn counterclockwise around the right needle and create that strand that's in between the two needles. And that strand is going to be your next stitch. So you're going to pull your right needle to pull that loop through to the front. So the right needle is now resting on top of the left needle, and slide the old stitch from the left needle off. And now you have your second stitch on your right needle. So you're transferring the old stitches on the left needle to new stitches on the right needle. And that's the basic knit stitch. Okay, let's work on the third stitch. We'll insert the right needle into the left stitch. Wrap the yarn counterclockwise around the right needle in between the two needles. Now you have the strand in between the two needles. You're going to pull that strand with the right needle to form that loop, and then release the stitch on the left needle, because now you have your new stitch on your right needle. As you create new stitches on the right needle, you'll be needing to cinch up the remaining stitches on your left needle towards the tip of the needle so that you can work the stitches. Here's the fourth stitch. If this video is going too fast for you, you can slow it down so that you can look at the stitches in even a more slow motion, if that's helpful. There's also mantras you can use to help you remember what to do. You can count the steps. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can say in through the front door, around the back, out through the window, and off jumps Jack. I like to do the next one where it's just reminding me the steps as in, around, through, and off. In from the front to the back. Around with the working yarn counterclockwise. Through, you're going to pull the yarn from the back to the front, creating that new loop on the right needle. And off, you're going to take the old stitch off the left needle. And that's basically all you need to know for learning how to knit the garter stitch, also known as the knit stitch. So congratulations! You are now on your way to knitting. I'm going to continue to show you the remaining stitches so you can knit with me or use this as a reference. And remember to slow down the video if you need it to go in a slower motion so you can understand every step of the way. In the next video, I will show you how to knit the second row and all the other rows in the swatch. And I'll show you also how to count the stitches and count the rows and show you what the fabric should look like. Okay, we're getting closer to the final stitches. I just wanted to go over that last stitch of the first row. It's going to be no different than any of the other stitches. It just might seem a little awkward because it's the last remaining stitch on the left needle, whereas all the stitches are now being transferred to the right needle. So for this last stitch, you're going to do just as you've done for all the others. You're going to insert your right needle from the front to the back, and then wrap the yarn around the right needle counterclockwise, and then catch that strand of yarn to create that loop on the right needle and release the stitch that's on the left needle. And now that's completely empty, and there you go. You've completed your first row. Congratulations. I hope this video has helped you. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And until the next video, happy knitting, and thanks for watching.